Let's go. The 49ers get amazing news after blowing out the Cleveland Browns. So many things to get into in this game, and the news that follows the game that I think is going to have you absolutely hyped heading into the bye week. Unbelievable, unreal updates from the game and after that I can't wait to get to. Hit subscribe if you're looking for 49ers content. Appreciate all of you guys for that. Let me know who stands out for you in this game. What stands out to you in this game? Raw thoughts, raw opinions. Comment them down below. The Niners did something for me. The thing that sticks out to me immediately, like following the game. The Niners did something completely remarkable with this defensive line especially. If you'd said between these two defensive lines, basically the number 3 defensive line in football, arguably number 1, depending on which metric you want to look at, depending on how you want to rate it, depending on what they've been up against, depending on what help their offense has given them. Like, you could argue this is the best defensive line in football, but they're up there. Top 5, whatever. Who cares? All right? The bottom line is, the Niners went to Seattle and they won. They went to New Orleans and they won. They went to Los Angeles and they won. They lost a couple away games after that, but then they go to New York and they win. And now in Cleveland, in a game that always in November always is going to come down to some weather. It's always going to come down to a tough, gritty game in Cleveland. The 49ers did not let this game go to a gritty victory. They were well positioned all the way through it. They played smart. Everything was smart in how they did things. But your defensive line just outplayed their defensive line in terms of sack totals, which I think is a pretty big metric considering it's the one we've been watching with the Cleveland Browns all season long, right? But they just won in Cleveland. They did not let this game come down to a field goal miss by Jake Moody. They did not let this game come down to those little things. They mined their P's and Q's, they played smart football, and they played very complimentary football, and it won them. Let's get into some of those details right now, including some stuff along the way that we learned after the game that I think will help you feel really good about it. Obviously, now this is 3 in a row, and we've needed a winning streak. We had that back and forth, win-loss, 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 win-loss. Finally, we get a couple wins together. You get a 3rd in a row now. Brock Purdy comes back from injury, wins 3 games in a row, and you're 4 in the last 5 games. That feels good. Cleveland Ferrell is on the screen right now because Cleveland Ferrell is playing unbelievable football for a free agent, for a guy who just got picked up in the middle of the season. Like, you guys have to appreciate what Chris Kosurik and Robert Saleh have done with this injury-riddled defense. Multiple guys go down in this game. You got Curtis Robinson going down. Nick Martin's out for the game. And this defense continues to find ways to not just win games, but be effective. Get after the quarterback. You got to give some massive credit to this defense. Cleveland Ferrell with the stacks are big, for sure. You got 4 times that you forced the Cleveland Browns a turnover on downs on 4th down. That's amazing. Let's see here. One of these sacks was a 13-yard sack, and it's a perfect situation in the 3rd defensive drive where you stop them from being able to kick a field goal or have a try at the field goal. You move them out of field goal range. In the second half, you got plays from guys like Curtis Robinson with absolute massive hits. D. Winters, massive hit. You've got a situation that should have been a safety. I'm including it as one of my plays of the game. I felt like it was a safety. I think it was an intentional grounding that gets missed by the referees because they're focused on other penalties that took place. But my goodness, yeah, you easily could have called a safety in at least 2 different ways on that play, in my opinion. You force a really big penalty that should have gone down as a sack. Doesn't really work that way because you accept the penalty. So there's a lot of moments in this game that I feel like the Niners defense really showed out. And Kyle Shanahan after the game says that the Niners defense kept them in that game and kept that game rolling in the right way. And you like 100%, this was not the game that you silence all the Purdy haters. And that's fine. I don't really care, to be honest with you, because I told you going into this game is not about Purdy throwing deep balls and proving he can do the things that he messed up on last week. This game is about moving the ball down the field, getting some sustained drives, which they did a few times, Not as many as you'd like, but getting some sustained drives and just playing complementary football. The Niners committed to get that run game going, whatever it took, and they managed to get the run game going at times when it was most effective for the team, even though they didn't have any explosives in the run game and that kind of thing. Your defense could not stop Quinshon Judkins. Could not stop him. The guy just keeps running the ball over and over and over. They give up like 150 yards on the ground, and they find ways to win this game with fumbles, fumble recoveries. And when I say complementary football, I got to turn my attention to another side of the game, which is special teams. So I need to kind of finish out some of the defensive stuff here. Clelin Ferrell with 2 sacks and 6 solo tackles, 9 tackles, 6 of them solo, leading the team in tackles is Clelin Ferrell. Clelin Ferrell, who played for the 49ers, got a few sacks in 2023. I think total was like 3.5 for the whole season. He's come in midseason, and he's having a heck of a time right now. 4 sacks in 5 games. Unbelievable. Shedeur Sanders averages a 3.37 second time to throw versus San Francisco. That's not good. So it's not all great from your defensive line, okay? The longest time to throw by a Browns quarterback over the last 3 seasons. The 49ers pass rush was able to generate 36.7% pressure rate while logging 3 sacks despite only blitzing once. The reason that stat is really important to me and why I call this amazing news is because the Cleveland Browns against 4-man fronts did very, very well up to this point this season. Very well. And where they really struggled, this Cleveland offensive line has struggled really badly against blitzes. So I went into this game thinking, you got a young quarterback. Robert Sala's going to show some really confusing looks, and he's going to blitz a lot more than like he would against just any other team. I felt like this game set up for the 49ers to blitz a lot. Put him in situations where he's skying a ball, where he's trying to throw the ball away, where your team can get some turnovers through interceptions. And Robert Saleh, to his credit, believed in this defensive line to get it done without it, and they did. 36.7% pressure rate just with one single blitz. I was like, yeah, I got to reread that. That wasn't right. Okay, let's talk about Brock Dirty Pocket Purdy with a clean game today. That's what that nickname stands for, right? Right, guys? I think that's what that stands for. Don't tell anyone otherwise. That's just what it stands for. Brock Dirty Pocket Purdy, though, has a clean game, throws for, $165 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And I felt good about it overall, though, in terms of what he was capable of doing. Now, that's not to say that it was a great game from Brock Purdy. What I think it was, what Brock Purdy did great today is he found a way through a lot of pressure to do what I've been asking him to do since he threw the pick against Los Angeles Rams late in the season last year. I have been asking Brock Purdy to please just throw the ball away. This offense is too good to feel like they have to force it when they're under pressure. The quarterback in this system, whoever the quarterback is, should not be trying to force it. This offense is way too good to be doing that. And this defense, now holding last week to 9 points, holding this week to 8 points. The defense is playing outstanding football. They only score in one quarter in this football game. They score 1 touchdown. Because of a penalty, they're able to go for 2 in only 1 yard and get and just barely get that yard. Judkins gets the 2-point conversion. But outside of that, the Niners and defense and special teams managed to hold this team back so incredibly well. Niners starting with great field position, drive after drive after drive. I've got the Niners starting on the 35. The Niners starting on, that would be, yes, the Cleveland 35. Starting on the Cleveland 22? No, not that one. Starting on the Cleveland 31, starting at the Cleveland 47, starting at the Cleveland 18, starting at the Cleveland 42. That's a lot of drives that start in great field position for the 49ers. And they should have done more with what they had available to them with how good this offense is. But Brock Purdy willing to just throw the ball away in a lot of situations where he's under a lot of pressure, and he did not try to force it downfield. And I love that. I love that. I understand that, like, Purdy apologists, which I consider myself one sometimes, I understand why Purdy apologists might be like, man, I wanted to see him make that pass. This guy was kind of open or whatever. No, you don't need that. Great offenses of the past. You know, I've talked to you guys many times. I've watched a lot of Broncos games. My wife's family is a big Broncos family. And, I watched Peyton Manning many times in those games. Just throw the ball away. If your offense is as good as it is, as this offense is, you don't need to force it all the time, especially when you're managing this game the way that the 49ers have been managing this game. Let them make the mistakes. There you go, 168 yards. He gets 2 touchdowns, only 1 through the air, 1 through the ground, of course. Christian McCaffrey averaging only 2.7 yards per carry, which doesn't look great on the stats sheet, but Christian McCaffrey still played really well, I think. And really, there are a couple times that you get after Christian McCaffrey way before the line of scrimmage, and he's fighting for every single yard. You give him some credit for those, of course. Brian Robinson Jr. With 8 carries for 26 yards, so really not a great day on the ground all in, but committing to it and getting yards on those drives that did well. The run game was working. George Kittle with a 33-yard long big play. That was awesome. But 4 receptions for 67 yards total, averaging 16.8 yards per carry or yards per reception. And then Juwan Jennings with the touchdown, of course. Kyle Juszczyk used a couple times in good ways. So there was some good stuff there. But really, it comes back to it comes back to the complementary football this team is playing. And you're moving the Niners now 2 games up in the wild card. Now, the Rams did lose today, so technically the NFC West is still there for the taking. However, I'm not going to go that route. I don't have any dreams about winning the NFC West today. I think the Niners could do it, but they have to win some big games in order to prove it. So that's down the line. I'm not going to worry about that today. So I'm still looking at the wild card for the 49ers personally. But when you look at this, check this out, okay? So the Cleveland Browns offense outpaces the 49ers offense pretty well in the first half. When it's all said and done, the 49ers have 19 first downs. That was a stat they were way behind on early on in the game. They end up having a third down efficiency of 11 for 17, which is pretty good when it's all said and done, considering there were some drives out there, like a bad 3 and out. There were some drives out there where they were facing a lot of third and longs, a ton of third and longs. So you got to give them some credit for that. Let's see, what was one of those third and longs? I think Kittle was one of the third and longs. Let's see here. Kendrick Bourne, that was a 3 and out. It was actually a decent catch by him. He just couldn't keep his feet in ground. Yeah, there was some other stuff in there. I have to be looking through that as we get going. But sacks, you actually had the Browns take more sacks than the 49ers in a game that has the NFL sack leader and potentially a record-breaking season for Myles Garrett. Everything points to it being a record-breaking season for him. So you got to give the Niners some massive credit for that. Trent Williams had the hardest day he's had all season, giving up a lot of pressures, and not because of Brock Purdy's mobility, not impacting the team. There were a couple times that he scrambled away, and I couldn't believe how he got out of the pocket. That was really, really cool. Niners only rushing in total for 91 yards to their 138. And in the red zone, we kept the Cleveland Browns out of the red zone the whole game. That's unbelievable, okay? And they had some good field position opportunities as well, by the way. And then, of course, we're 3 for 5 in the red zone, which is fantastic. The Niners, of course, get the 2 turnovers, one of them from special teams, one of them on a 4th and 1 from the defense. You give them credit for that. And then in a game where your time of possession is pretty even, which is mostly unusual for a 49ers team that tends to outpace the other team in time of possession, for a game that was actually very even in a lot of metrics. But 49ers, as I mentioned earlier, able to force 4 fourth down opportunities to turnover on downs, which is pretty fascinating in itself. I do have some injury updates that are decent because of the time when it hits, I suppose. But you've got Nick Martin, who exited with a concussion. We'll see what that looks like. We didn't get anything from Kyle today on that. Ben Barch, who suffered a foot injury, but Spencer Burford did pretty well outside of a penalty. But Spencer Burford ends up having a really great block in a big moment. Kyle Juszczyk leaves the game with a rib injury, but the early reports are that he was negative for broken ribs in the early test. They will do more tests, and we'll find out more tomorrow, hopefully, from Kyle Shanahan. As the stats do get, or the reporting and all that stuff gets a little bit funky this time of year or this time of the week when you're on your bye week, but whatever. Seahawks are out playing right now. I don't know how that game's going to turn out, so I leave them in the second spot for now. But the 49ers, 9-4, could be moving to second place in the NFC West after these games are completed, which is awesome. The Rams lose, so they're now tied for the 49ers as a 9-win team. But I think their schedule favors them, and the football they've been playing is pretty unbelievable outside of today. And then when you look at the wild card picture, it's updated, but it's still not quite done yet. The Panthers moved to 7-6. The Lions, of course, from Thanksgiving Day, 7-5. And the 49ers still very confident in their wild card position. You need one more big win against the Tennessee Titans, and then if you can win one of those final remaining games, either the Bears or the Seahawks, that pretty much secures it, I think. That should secure it. And then the Packers and the Seahawks, we'll see what happens with them. Packers win, of course, so Cowboys win, but I don't think they're really in it. So we'll see how it all plays out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. As always, the Tennessee Titans is a game that we'll have an extra week of rest. I think you go into that game feeling pretty confident you're going to find a way to beat that team. Extra time to plan for it. And then, of course, much needed rest. You got a lot of players who you're hoping can come back from injury. YGM should be able to open a practice window after the break, after the bye. Several guys like Tatum Bethune, who you'd like to get back as well. So there is definitely an opportunity here for the 49ers as their defense is putting together impressive wins despite missing a lot of players. Now, is this a team that could go deep? Technically on paper, sure, they could go deep. It's gonna require everything to start firing on all cylinders, and there's no better time than to come back from the bye week, go just whoop on the Tennessee Titans, and start that process right now. If you can beat the Seahawks at home, that secures your playoff berth for sure, I'd think, if you win those two games. So everything's looking really good for the 49ers right now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments as always. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I hope you guys had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I had 2 days of 14 hours on the road each. So I'm pretty tapped out, but the 49ers got me hyped. Let's go. 49ers win. They're now a 9-win team. Tell me something I don't know.